Hey everyone, back again with another interview. I'm talking to a progressive death metal band, at least that's what it says on Metal Archives anyway. Requiem for Oblivion from Erie, Pennsylvania, is that?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Who are you both? Let's introduce yourselves. So what do you do in the band?
I'm Steve, founder, lead vocals, guitars, bass, keys, and sometimes drums, during times when I didn't have a drummer.
Right.
He's pretty much our all-in-one.
Yeah.
Right, jack of all trades.
Right. I'm Michael. I'm our drummer for the band. I'm the newest addition,
Right.
but I met Steve a couple of years ago. We've been playing together for quite some time, and it's an awesome act, and I'm really happy with what I'm bringing to the band and excited to see what we do.
Cool. Right, so I always like to start off with my first question is always what's in a name? What is Requiem for Oblivion? What does it mean? Where did you get the idea from? What is there like? Does the name encompass what you want to sing about and what you want to play, or?
Yeah. So the name actually has a lot of meaning for me because I'm a recovering addict, and I was in a death metal band in Sacramento, California called Forsake the Flesh. And when we were trying to think of names for that band, I came up with Requiem for Oblivion, which is basically just me kind of saying adios to my addiction. I'm leaving it behind, saying a funeral for the futility, if you will.
Right.
So that's kind of the name in a nutshell. Because when I was out there drinking and using, it was oblivion every day.
Yeah.
So this band and these songs and the recording process, like everything has been very therapeutic for my recovery. And I struggle with mental health stuff too. And I'm on meds, and like everybody else, it seems like, and so a lot of the subject matter earlier in the discography is about the living hells of addiction and little slivers of hope here and there. So it's kind of a roller coaster ride. I touch on the depression and the despair and stuff like that. So that's where the name came from.
Yeah. It's quite an evocative name as well, isn't it? It's kind of poetic. Like people could probably look at it and put their own slant on it as well, can't they? Like, just it's kind of one of those kind of names that you look at it and you go, what does that mean? And you'll think about it for a bit and come up with a few of your own theories, kind of thing. So it's kind of cool to hear, like from the horse's mouth, so to speak.
Sure.
How did the band start
out? So when I moved from Sacramento to Erie, I left that band, Forsake the Flesh. I left them behind, and it gave me the opportunity to start my own project. I built my own studio because the last band I had the opportunity to learn how to use Cubase and recording gear and mics and amps and direct ins and just all those little things, MIDI, and I learned how to do all that from my old drummer in California. And so when I moved here, obviously I didn't know anybody really. I mean, I knew few people, but I had to build a band when I got here. But at first it was just me, and it was just me writing things. And I had a little studio to start, and eventually I bought a house, and now I have a whole room that's a studio. And and so I kind of. And please don't take this the wrong way. I'm not like trying to say I'm Chuck Schuldiner, but this band is kind of in the same tradition as Death because I'm the only constant through each album. And I'm having to assemble new parts every time, it feels like. Because people come and go. And it wasn't a band where it was like four of us from high school that got together. You know what I mean? So I've had to meet people, bring them in, make sure they're what I'm looking for, kind of thing, bring them in, and then they eventually, move on to do other things or whatever, or maybe we have musical differences or whatever, pretty much everybody's left on good terms. I just know that even if it's just me, like it was during 2013 when I put out EP 13. I did everything on that EP.
Yeah, I thought I remembered you being a one-man band at one point, because I think I've played you quite a few times. You've been in touch with me for a bit on my podcast. I'm sure you sent me a few things over the years. I kind of thought that you were a one-man band, and when I was chatting to you again about doing an interview, and I saw that we've got a big lineup, and I thought, sure, it's just like a bunch of new members. I'm guessing it must have been.
Yeah. We had a 5-man lineup back for 2017's release of Burning Nation, and we played a ton of shows in a pretty short amount of time. That lineup was probably only together a year and a half or 2 years, and we had a front man, because I used to do all the vocals, but I got a front man for that album. We felt like it might create a more dynamic show, but pretty much everybody jumped ship except for me and the guitarist that's been with me for 8 years, Jeff. But Jeff left a couple summers ago. So, so Mike came on board about a year and a half ago, and no, I'm sorry, Jeff left last summer. So Jeff was involved in some of the writing for the EP that we're about to release. But since then, Mike and I have written an additional 15 songs. So we have 15 songs. Yeah, really so we've got a whole new full length coming out, probably at the end of the year, and by then we'll probably write another 5 to 10 songs. So, I mean, I think we're just going to be content machines, from and incidentally, you said that the website said we're progressive death metal. Yeah. And the sound has changed a little over the years, so we're more now. We're really concentrating on, technicality, and we're really getting into the slammy stuff. We just really like the chunky, slowed down beats, and we're both really just enamored with that sound. So yeah, I mean, I can let Michael touch on that a little bit more too.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, just getting some words from you. Like, how did you come to join the band, and what sort of brought you into the band? What made you think, oh yeah, it's the band for me? Or is just location, or are you into the music that they're playing, or did you think you could bring your own slant to proceedings?
A little bit of all that, yeah. I mean, short bit about me. I mean, I've pretty much been a metalhead since I was like 10 years old, so it was kind of like a natural fit once I saw that there was an opportunity to join the band. Yeah. But it really wasn't like, I should say, like any special like lining up of events. They had actually just played their last show at our 814 Metal Fest about 2 summers ago, and they needed a drummer at the time, and I just simply had posted that I was interested. The guys got in touch with me, and I have to say it was a really kind of freeing experience musically, because I've been playing like metal drums for years, but not so much like in dedicated acts. But it really just meshed super well with my own personal music style, and also the style of the band as well.
Cool. So you've only recorded in the new EP so far, yeah?
Right. Yeah.
Right. And that's all recorded in your little home studio?
Yeah. We actually, for years now, we've actually done the drums at my buddy's place. He's about 40 minutes from us, because he's got a really nice drum room, like dedicated with the glass, and it's insulated really well, and
super nice studio.
Yeah, and so it's easier to do the drums there. I would have to do a lot of work to do them. I've done them at my house before, but it was before Michael entered the band, and I just feel more comfortable going to Dan's for drums, but everything else is at my place.
All right. And so you've got all the technology now that you never probably had when you first started out. It's so many bands sort of favour that now, don't they? Do their own stuff.
Yeah. I can literally do almost anything now. So yeah. It's good.
Is there still stuff that you're learning on it? Are you proficient on all the devices now? Are you picking up new tricks still as you go along?
Yeah, I don't pretend to be, like if you listen to our recordings, they sound really good. But if you listen to it next to a Fallujah CD, it's not going to be as good. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we're just a notch below that, because I don't have the budget, I guess, that, those guys have. We've talked about going to a big studio, spending 10 grand or whatever. But it's just not feasible for us right now, with the little bit of money we do make, on merch and stuff like that, especially now that we're not playing shows, So I just try to keep getting better every album so that, hopefully people are listening to it and not really noticing that it's not a major label release, or whatever.
Yeah.
So
this quiet period of the COVID and Corona, whatever, you must, you say you've got 15 new songs already written out. So although it's poor for like gigs, it's good for creating, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Maybe not good for the mental health though, like all this not being able to go out and do what you would normally do. It's like not good for anyone's mental health, that is it?
No, not really.
Yeah. So do you want to talk about some of your recordings? So let's look at Metal Archive, assuming it's correct. You've had a demo, 2 EPs, and 2 full-length albums now. So the first one was just you on your own, Funeral for... Is it Funeral for Fertility or EP 13, the one that you did on your own, or was it all 3 of the first recordings?
The first one I did, the demo's all me. No, I'm sorry. The demo is me with my old drummer, Mike, from 2010. Ironically, his name was Mike too. And it was just me and him at the time, just like it's just me and Mike now. So it's kind of like history, it's deja vu all over again. So now the 2011 release, we actually recorded at we actually did spend, however, I don't even remember how much money we spent, maybe $1,000 or whatever, to record a 2-song EP down in Cleveland. And I can't even remember the name of the place, but so those You Not Me and God Builder were done at a big studio down there, and that was me and the old Mike and a guy named TJ, who I'm in a black metal band with now. So then EP 13 was just all me. Mike had left, or no, Mike was still in the band, but he was kind of doing other things, and I don't know. I just went in the studio. I had the songs already written, and I just pumped them out real fast, and then Dark Tales was me and Jeff, my longtime guitarist, and Mike, the old drummer, and I don't even remember who the bassist was. Oh, I played the bass on that album. So that's why I don't remember, because I'm pretty forgettable, I guess. But and then, like I said, Burning Nation was me and Jeff, but then a drummer named Austin, a shreddy bass player named Kyle, and then my front man Growler Mark, and we recorded everything, and that was really the first full collaborative band effort of this run, really.
Yeah. It's been quite a 3-year gap. I mean, between Burning Nation and when's the new EP coming? Not too sure yet when the new EP's coming, are you?
Yeah, it should be early March or something. It was going to be mid-February, but like I said, they want to see if they can get these Metal Injection guys to do this interview. So they for whatever reason, they need to push the release date back. Probably because they're backed up and they don't want to feel rushed or whatever. But so we're willing to move the release date. I would never want to move it up, but I would always move it back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if there's good reason.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I suppose in this sort of climate as well, maybe the later you leave it, the more likely the Corona will be over with, and you can start pumping out gigs to support it. I mean, what have you been like on the gigging front? I mean, you've had a few lineup changes. Was you doing any gigs on your own back in the day, or was it just literally a CD band at that point?
You know what? Since that last show that Michael referenced, we played at, just him and I played a Halloween show at his brother has a band here in Erie called Brotherhood of the Jam, and we practiced or we played a show with them. It was kind of a big party, Yeah, about 30, 40 people there, and
super fun time.
Yeah, it was a really good time, and we played all our new stuff that nobody's heard yet. That's not even on the EP, and we got a really good response. I play a 9-string guitar, so it fills in the sound really well. You know, we can kind of live without a bassist.
Yeah.
So, but it was fun. Yeah, it was a good time. But really, that's it. You know.
Yeah, it's difficult to do anything at the moment. Have you actually had lockdown? Has it been bad in your area?
You want to handle that?
Yeah, that's exactly it too. Is that we actually had a couple opportunities for a couple shows that we were going to do before that Halloween one, and unfortunately, due to like some of the restrictions that are going on, depending where you're at, I think a couple of them actually got canceled. We had 2 lined up, so it's like a 25-person limit or something like that, and the venues have to follow very strict guidelines. So that's been the reality of it for us here, unfortunately. But
yeah, that's the thing we're worrying as well about venues having to close down because they're not making any money. You think bars are venues going to close down when it does all open up again. There's going to be less places to play.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, our little town. Well, I mean, it's 100,000 people or so here, but in our town, we've lost a lot of our venues for original artists. You know, which are mostly metal. You know. You know, we got country cover bands, we got rock cover bands, you know, we got cover bands galore here. But for original artists, we had a good 4 or 5 venues in and around the area, and really all but one have closed down over the last 8 years or so.
Yeah.
My favorite one, the Crooked Eye,
that place was killer.
was amazing, and they closed about 8 years ago or something, 7 years ago.
Give or take, yeah.
Yeah, and then after that, Sherlock's closed, Bobby's Place, the Beer Mug, like all these iconic places in Erie that have been around, that have been the host of like big acts, and they all closed down. And then go ahead.
I was saying, you thought about putting on your own festival or anything like that?
Yeah, we had a couple of festivals here in the area. We had one called Metal Massacre that had been going on for 14 years or something, and it just stopped in, I think the last one was 2017 or 18, and then we did, bless you, and then we also had an 814 Metal Fest that had a shorter run of about 7 years. And neither of those obviously ran last year. Who knows what'll happen this year? But those were really nice for the summers because they were 3 days long, camping, people drinking, all that stuff. Tons of bands. Probably 25 bands over 2.5 days or whatever.
Do you get good weather there for them as well? Or?
What's that?
Do you get good weather for your festivals as well?
Exactly. Yeah.
Not too hot, is it there where you are?
Yeah, Erie can get nasty.
All right.
It's actually kind of nasty right now.
All right. What, cold or hot or?
Cold and snowy.
All right. Right. Cool. So did we get the name of the new EP? I think we started talking about it, but I don't think we caught the name, did we?
Yeah, Hindsight 2020.
That's right. Yeah. Because I played it on my show last Sunday. I remember now. Yeah. So what's that about? Is it anything to do with 2020, the year? Is it looking back on it? Or?
Yeah, it's kind of a play on words because we're referencing 2020. We put 2020 in the title, even though it's being released in 2021.
Yeah.
Just kind of paying homage to a really, really strange year, and a lot of us have seen things we've never seen before this last year,
Yeah, I hope never see again.
Yeah. And so, we're kind of just looking back. So it's hindsight 2020.
Yeah.
But it's 2020 like the vision with the thing in the middle, so it's kind of a play on words. But the album itself doesn't really have a theme, but it's 5 songs that are all pretty dark and heavy. I don't think it's as heavy as our newer stuff, but it's pretty heavy, and it's got we like to think of ourselves as kind of versatile or like a hybrid death metal. So you'll hear some sections that sound vaguely like maybe Gojira, and then you'll hear like a Cannibal Corpse riff or something that sounds real bloodbathy. Things like that. In fact, my biggest bands that I really have been listening to in the last couple of years are like Hour of Penance, Nile, Bloodbath, Beyond Creation, Obscura. So those are, some of my favorite bands that I listen to. What, you want to run down yours lately?
Yeah. Some really great bands I've been listening to, particularly like in the tech death realm, that I'd like to give a shout out to is like Singularity.
Mm-hmm.
And Oracle is kind of like a really great hidden gem. They kind of both hit that heavier side, like tech death, almost like a groove sound, but the technicality is all there. But beyond that, like my personal influences like Gojira, Bloodbath, Megadeth plays a bit of a part, obviously more in the death metal realm of things than thrash, but that's one of my favorite bands growing up. So you can hear a little bit of that in my playing.
Yeah. I was talking about, you used to say you started off the way the band name comes from you getting away from addiction. As you've got further away from that, have your lyrics changed in their style? Are you bringing, or is it like, are you still sort of feeling that really heavily in your life?
Yeah, no, we're kind of branching out, and there's actually a theme, an overarching theme. As we progress through each album, the subject matter is spreading out as well. So, Dark Tales of Forgotten Mindscapes is all about what's going on in here.
Yeah.
Burning Nation is what's going on in our country. And then the upcoming full length is called Amidst Chaotic Earth. So that's going to branch out to global stuff.
Right.
And, so you see this progression. And then the EPs are kind of like their own animals, just to fill space and fill time, between. So, but yeah, so there's not a ton of the, addiction and just, hell on earth and stuff.
Where it started from.
Yeah, I'm kind of getting away from that a little bit, but it comes up,
Yeah.
It influences my writing for sure,
Yeah. Well, it's good that you're able to move on to other subjects now, because it means you're putting in further in your past, aren't you? Every year's another year where you're of sobriety and keeping things normal.
Yep.
I suppose also Burning Nation, you could probably bring out like a 2020 re-release of that as well, with all the adding to all the stuff that's happened in 2020 in the country. It's got even more kind of split, hasn't it?
I should have done that. Well, ironically, Burning Nation came out when Trump got elected. You know what I mean? So it was kind of this, and that really separated our country. We had all these crazy Trumpsters, and then we had all the other people,
Yeah.
And it's and it fit that atmosphere of the country really well. And yeah, it would have, if we would have re-released, I could have remastered it or something and re-released it last year.
Couple of extra tracks on it, kind of thing.
Cleaned it up a little bit, because like I said, I'm better now than I was then.
Yeah.
So I could probably make it sound better too, But
you never know. This year might get even worse, and you might be able to release it at the end of this year. Let's hope not. Let's hope everything goes smoothly everywhere. Should we go through the tracks then of the new EP, Hindsight 2020? Do you want to run us through the 5 tracks and give us the story behind them, like who recorded, how did you put them together, your recording process, do you make all the riffs up yourself, or did other bands? Do you have an idea and then you give it to, how do you write the songs and what are they about? Let's go that way. Bit of a long question.
All right. Yeah, that's good. So Lies and Fire was Michael, me, and Jeff, the old guitarist who left last summer. We wrote that one together, and Jeff and I wrote the riffs. And I don't know. For some reason, I thought Lies and Fire was a cool name for a song. And so I kind of wrote the lyrics around that, just about, how lies, perpetuate, violence and discontent on the earth and cause a lot of fires,
Yeah.
And that's kind of what that song was about.
You think about it as well. Lies spread and fire spread, don't they? In the same kind of way.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. No, that's brilliant. Yeah. So I hadn't even thought of that.
I think lyrically, if you look too at the lyrics that he's written for Lies and Fire, there's there's still a little bit of themes of burning nations. So kind of on that focus of the division, you know, among people and what's going on in our country today. So that there's still like echoes of that in that song. And that was our first song together, obviously. And we kind of all, you know, just jammed it out to start. They had some riffs written, and I was trying to kind of learn their older material as well as kind of improv on the new stuff coming out. And once that one hit, we just started banging them out.
What is it like though? Like, so you talk about division, we hear about it over here, but is it like different parts of the country, or will it be like your next door neighbor pro-Trump, your next door neighbor like not pro? In how bad is the tension? Is it like in towns or only mainly states for the state kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean it's kind of everywhere. So yeah, your neighbor could be a crazy, you know, hillbilly who's pro-Trump and just, you know, riding around with like a Confederate flag or something on their truck, and then
shooting off a shotgun.
Yeah, and then you could have somebody on the right who's really, you know, really chill and you know, Bernie Sanders, you know, or something. You know, pro Bernie Sanders, I should say. So, but there are definitely certain hot spots where, you know, certain people tend to kind of get together of like mind, you know, but, you know, I mean, mostly these protests is where you see really a lot of unrest, you know, and where the people organize, or they're not so organized, I guess, but they just have this hate and this, you know, hate in their hearts and violence on their minds, you know, and that's unfortunate.
Seems to go hand to hand as well. Like the pro-Trumpers also like anti-COVID and anti-mask and don't believe it's a real thing. He seems to be. Yeah.
I mean, it feels like a lot of lies and fire when it comes to you know, the people that are just in denial, you know, and it may not only be Trump people either, you know. So
we're going to the next song.
Okay, so the next song is called Collapse the Structure, and that was also written with Jeff, me, and Mike, and we let's see, the lyrical content is basically about the government and how things just aren't working the way they are, and so at some point, and it may be sooner than we think, with you know, with echoes of 2020 in our ears and what's going on now, you know, and the big Black Lives Matter movement and all these other things that are causing unrest, and so, you know, there may be a kind of a
shift,
like a uprising or whatever, sooner than we think, you know, and that's kind of what Collapse the Structure is about. It's about, you know, government oppression on one side, or them lying to you and all this kind of stuff, or mistreating people, not putting people first like they're supposed to, and then the other side of it, which is the people trying to regain the power, things like that. You want to add something?
I mean, I'd say that's a pretty concise nutshell of how I feel about the song. I definitely would agree with all of those.
And I would say Collapse the Structure is probably the most complex song on the CD. Or
a little proggy at times.
Yeah, it's a little progressive, technical. It's our longest song on there. It's probably 6 something. Has a big epic outro. Which is kind of our thing, you know. We do that every now and then, these big, you know, epic outros, and so that's pretty much it for that song. The third, did you have a question about that one?
No, that's
okay. Yeah, the third song is called Shatter Point. When I wrote the lyrics, it was called Tipping Point, and Michael actually came up with the idea that, you know, we should call it like Shatter Point or something more like, you know,
just picture something breaking.
Something where you're really on the on the verge of breaking, as opposed to just kind of slowly going over the edge or whatever, you know. So that's kind of what the lyrics on that one are about, is just kind of being pushed to your limits, you know. and it's kind of one of our more groovier songs. You know, it's one of the mottos of this band, I think, is that we try to do sometimes, and I don't even know if we try to do it, but this is something that happens, is we do songs within songs. So there's a section about 2/3 or half or 2/3, about halfway through the song, I guess. There's a whole section that kind of goes off in another direction, and it becomes real groovy, and it kind of changes the feel of the song before going back to the real dark chorus again at the end. So it's kind of an interesting song. I don't really know what to compare it to. I mean, it's kind of doomy, I guess.
Yeah, the chorus is definitely doom inspired, I would say, and I definitely echo that. There's lots of peaks and valleys, like what he said. Like that middle part kind of goes off, and I wouldn't say it becomes its own thing, but it does give you a sense of progression in the song, and it's hard to encapsulate, as a drummer to say what that feeling is. But I think once you listen to it, you'll kind of see what I mean.
Right. How do you keep all these like complex songs in your head? Because in my band, we used to be like, we just do it 4 times. We can remember 4. And everything used to be in 4s basically. It was easy to remember. Right. How do you keep it all like up there? Do you practice often? You got your own room for recording. Is it good enough for practicing it as well?
I would say, yeah, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears from both of us, in a good way. Yeah. And for me, there was a little bit of a learning curve with these guys. Like when I first joined them, like I was a fan before, but they really get into some interesting timings. Like there's like 11/8 type stuff in there, some 13/8 stuff that you really wouldn't expect in death metal. But it's fun and heavy at the same time. Once I really like locked myself in with Steve's timing, it's really just been kind of by rote. So just keeping my nose to the wheel and keep busting out those beats and keeping that metronome going.
How do you decide on your timings? Is it just something you've just developed and you think this sounds good, or you take it from other band influences, or is it just as you've got progressed from your first band to now, you just fucking do whatever new stuff you can come up with? How do you work on it?
There was definitely an evolution. I was always into prog music when I was younger, so I always really dug like off-time grooves and beats like 5/4, 7/4. Pink Floyd, for instance, is one of my lesser-known influences. Not in this band, but just as a musician,
Yeah.
So little echoes of that, and just kind of having those ideas in my head, kind of helped me to gravitate towards this kind of music.
Yeah, and I'm a lot of our funky timing stuff is intentional, obviously, but sometimes we'll just write something and we'll count it later and go, oh wait, that's in a weird, that's kind of a weird timing there. Yeah. But most of the time we're right. We want to keep things interesting and keep people guessing.
Oh yeah.
So we don't want them to be able, all the time anyways, to be able to tell right when we're going to hit an accent or something, So, I grew up kind of like what Michael said. I grew up listening to Rush, and their prog influence is has drenched my soul, over the years. So, and then I got really into Dream Theater when they first dropped Pull Me Under. I got really sucked into that. And old, Fate's Warning, stuff like that. Was a big fan. And then, of course, more recently, actually, there's a band right here called Animus that I'm a big fan of them. Their album that came out last year, Dreamcatcher, is really good. And it's proggy, but it's very death metal too,
Yeah.
So there's definitely, Opeth was my favorite band for like 10 years, so Opeth was, that's what my band Forsake the Flesh in California sounded a lot like Opeth, and then early Requiem sounds, maybe other than the vocals, the sound is very Opethy as well. But then I've kind of steered away. Agalock was also a huge influence of mine, and so we've kind of steered away from that folky, proggy, black metal-y, death metal-y stuff, and it's all about atmosphere, slam, and tech now, and I think we might be settling in, like we finally settled into our style our writing like is really solidified in those like three main subgenres.
Yeah. Unless, like, in a couple of years' time, you might start bringing new things in again. You might say, we've played this now, we want to try something different. I think when you're a fan of bands, you want them to sort of sound the same all the time. But, like, when you're actually in a band, you want to not just play the same thing over and over again. You want to experiment with, and bring in influences of new stuff that you've listened to.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, we want to evolve, you know, and we want to have fun playing what we're playing. Yeah. Like, I don't just want to strum bar chords all day. So I'm writing crazy, you know, Cannibal Corpse types riffs or you know, Morbid Angel, you know, Hour of Penance type stuff, you know, Nile. I mean, Nile's a huge influence on me, and just the intensity and complexity of their riffs is you know, they're top notch, you know, and so, you know, I listen to them a lot. I actually was gonna have Dallas Toller Wade was gonna actually guest appear on an album, but I might save that for this next full length.
All right. I think on the last podcast I played one of the guys from Niles got a new side project to say. I played the track by them. I can't remember what they were called now though. Did you listen to that one? I can't remember what they were called now. Let's see if I can find. I wonder if you might have listened to it and remember. I can't remember what they were called. I'll have a look into it while you're answering the next question. We're going to move on to was it track 4?
Yeah. So track 4 is Conspiracy Bro.
Oh yes.
You want to take that one?
Yeah. So that's a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek nod in reference to a character I created. I'm kind of a comedic dude. I have a lot of funky sense of humor, I'd say, but I have my own dreams of starting like a YouTube channel, and I kind of toy around with little different characters and this, that, and the other thing. Conspiracy Bro isn't really about the character per se. It's a little bit of a nod to it, but it does tie into a lot of those themes, and you'll see even right now in the current political atmosphere is that everybody seems to think that everything is either a conspiracy or tied to some greater agenda. Yeah. So Conspiracy Bro is a very comedic sense of that. So, you know, he'll think that the government's tracking him like in the drive-through and, you know, can figure out who he is based on like his orders. So that's very comedic, you know, no seriousness to it. But there is a slight hint of that in the song, but it's more about, I would say, the political sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's really a goofy song. I mean, you know, the lyrics are kind of goofy. It's super like the
ending especially.
Yeah, it's super slammy at the end, like dark and just slammy, slow. You know, just grunging along. You know, and you know, I just make a lot of funny references, like, you know, let me get my tinfoil hat, and you know, there's a camera in my key fob, and ISIL is on the payroll, and you know, and the queen is a cannibal, and you know, and dinosaurs help build the pyramids. You know, that's how the song ends. You know? So it's a lot of fun. It's kind of a heavy, you know, kind of a raw. It has a raw feel to it, you know, more than the other songs, I think. But it's a lot of fun. It's just kind of has like some dumb riffs in it that are just kind of dumb. Yeah, caveman riffs, and it just fits, you know, because the whole vibe of the song is just kind of lighthearted and you know, crazies with, like, you know, with just, you know, aluminum foil,
chemtrails and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So
they're quite funny. Some of these conspiracy theories are so way out there, but then there's like a dark underbelly to them as well, isn't there? Where it's like people are, I'm not going to take a vaccine because the vaccine's going to implant a blinking chip into me where I can be, you know, they're kind of weird. Have you got a favourite daft conspiracy, or have you got any conspiracies that you sort of think might be real at all?
My favorite one that I don't believe is probably the 5G tower thing. I mean, as soon as I heard about that, people believe that, you know, these 5G towers are making people sick. I was like, how can you even like wrap your head around that? Like, what makes you think that that's a thing? You know what I mean? As far as like a serious conspiracy, I believe that there's been like a lot of like inside behind the scenes stuff that we don't necessarily see that I think is true. You know, maybe scandals from like the 70s and 80s, but I'm not going to get too deep into that. You know, I'd have to really think about it. But, yeah, 5G for the comedic one for sure.
Yeah, let's go into the last song, and I've got a question from chat just about. We'll get to that in a minute. What's the last song on the EP?
So this one is called Esoterica, and so part of my spirituality in my recovery is I was raised Catholic. I never vibed with it. You know, it works for my parents, God bless them, but it's not my thing. And so I had to find my own spirituality in order to save my life and my, you know, and my sanity. And so, you know, I really got into Buddhism early in recovery. And then from there, branched out to other esoteric, you know, arts, and even out into magic, various forms of magic and Hindu chanting. And there's just like I have a hybrid spirituality, just like we play a hybrid death metal. So it's kind of a mixture of a lot of different things that I combine to create this practice, spiritual practice that I have that, you know, basically saves my life and keeps me connected to all that is. And nature is a big part of that. So that's kind of, you know, the lyrics of this song are kind of mostly talk about the old healing temples in Egypt, the ancient temples that were used for, I think they did, like exorcisms and physical healings and all these different things. And there were just certain people allowed to know this esoteric wisdom and mages or whatever, you know, or high priests or whatever they were. So that's kind of what this. I referenced a book for some of this stuff that I had read, and now the name of the book is escaping me. But it was a really this song really, I think, for me, the lyrics are the most powerful for me. So did you want to say something about that, Phil?
I think it's really interesting too, because it was our last song with Jeff, you know, before he started doing some other things. But it has a very moody vibe to the song. It's so different from the rest on there. Like they all tie into each other in some way, but I think that is kind of where you'll see like we got a lot more heavy into the progressive elements while still retaining like the technicality and slam elements as well. But the whole vibe of it, it's got even I would say like a slight Alice in Chains feel, you know, just like the mood, not necessarily musically, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and this is another song where we have one of those big epic outros. That's
like 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah, and it's very Egyptian sounding and very atmospheric and dark. It almost sounds like we're inside of a pyramid, you know. Sounds like we're inside of a pyramid recording it, you know, or playing it. So, but yeah, it's got a really neat way to end the EP, and I don't know. I just really like that song. That was the hardest one to record as well. The timings in it are really weird, and you know, there's some strange guitar stuff, and yeah, that was a nightmare to record that song. Honestly,
sounds like 5 different songs. They've all got their own character, and they're all like different enough from each other to make them a different experience for each one.
Absolutely.
All right, that band I was telling you about, the guy from Nile, was called Imperishable. I got a playlist track of theirs last week on the show. Apparently, it's one of the guys from it's Brian Kingsland.
Yeah, the new guitarist.
All right, yeah, Imperishable is like a side project.
Yeah, he's the guy that replaced Dallas when Dallas went on to do Narcotic Wasteland.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Right. Got a question to do with gigging. My mate Werewolf on Lunchtime asked if you ever played Australia. I guess you probably haven't, but we're talking about playing other places. Before, when you could still play, how far have you travelled? And when you are able to travel again, what are your touring, gigging plans? You got any kind of anything in place or anything you're thinking about?
So this band, what's cool, one of the things that appealed to me about Erie is that we're kind of like right here, and Cleveland is here, Buffalo's here, and Pittsburgh is here, all within an hour and a half. So it's like this triangle of big cities, you know, within an hour and a half of us.
Right.
So, you know, we have played Cleveland the most, but we have connections in Buffalo and Pittsburgh as well. But there's also surrounding areas even closer in than those three cities where we've played, you know, Spartansburg, Corey, all these places that are kind of outskirts, you know, 45 minutes, say, from here.
Yeah.
So that's that's pretty much, I think, the furthest we've gone. I mean, we played in Akron once, which was further than Cleveland, I guess, but or a couple times maybe we were there. But yeah, so yeah, we haven't done like any real serious like touring. But you know, that's still a yet for us. You know, we'll get there eventually.
Yeah. So it's impossible to make plans, really, isn't it, at the moment? Like, even if you would like to go and play other places, there's no point making plans because you have no idea when you're going to be able to travel.
Yeah, absolutely. Didn't you play with
my old band Revelation? We played pretty much in a similar area. Got a little bit further out into New York, like into Jamestown. Really interesting place, or a venue rather, called Krakatoa in Kingsville, Ohio, I want to say. So it was a little bit out of the ways, about a 3-hour drive, but really neat place, super neat venue. So I've played personally about the same places as Steve. Obviously, one of my goals and objectives is go as far as we can, you know, as we continue to release material. I'd say at least, you know, do some West Coast, East Coast stuff, you know, fingers crossed. But I mean, hey, as far as it goes, you know, we'll take it. I'll certainly be there.
Yeah. Have you got any like interesting gig stories from the gigs you have been able to do? Any bad occasions or?
I mean, just good stuff mostly. I mean, I remember. I mean, do you remember when Metal Sanaz was a big deal? She was that MTV metal girl,
right?
And she hosted a show that we played one time, and it was this kind of huge deal. And I'm trying to remember. I think Mushroom Head was there. They were the headliner, and then just a bunch of you know, us bands from the Cleveland area, and then we were from Erie up here. That was a lot of fun because it was a big turnout. They were recording parts of the show, like for her TV show.
Right.
So that was kind of neat. They interviewed me and a couple other guys in the band, and that was a lot of fun. I think my favorite, we opened for Fleshed Out Apocalypse one time, and that was amazing. And then we also opened for Catatonia, who's one of my favorite bands. So, you know, we haven't had anything too crazy happen. You know, I mean, other than, you know, normal, like, you know, drunk people puking in front of you.
no breakdowns or anything like that.
People making out in the green room, or, you know, whatever, just dumb stuff, you know. But yeah, nothing too crazy, really. It's just, you know, just people having fun and playing music and loving each other's art, you know. That was pretty much.
And have you organised all the gigs yourself, or have you got like any kind of like road manager or anyone who's like you said you got a PR company who are talking about holding off on the release? Have you got any other people working for the band, like, you know, booking gigs or anything like that?
No, it's always been me keep booking them. Yeah, so
yeah,
I've been the booker.
Not something you consider in the future, because I know if you want to get like a decent, and also like buy on tours and stuff like that. Is that something you'd ever do?
A what?
When you buy onto a tour, you know.
Yeah, I mean, if I mean, we would weigh the pros and cons, and if it seems like we would get enough out of it, sure. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. You know, I'm not going to pay for something that's just, you know, like around here, sometimes they'll have pay to play shows, and I'm like, why would I pay to put my band in front of 15 people that have probably already seen us before? You know,
Yeah.
So you know, it just depends on what the situation is, of course. But you know, we're all about, you know, I make a lot of money at work, you know, and I own properties and stuff, so I don't need money from this project necessarily. I mean, I'd like to make money eventually for our art, but we're more worried at this point about exposure and having people spread the word about us, and you know, and we want people to genuinely enjoy our music. Like if you don't genuinely enjoy our music, cool, move along, that's fine. But share us with somebody who might, you know.
So once you've the EP's finally out, you say you've already got 15 songs that are more like slammier and progressive or technical kind of frame. When do you think you'll be recording those?
I'm already in the process. We laid down drums for I think 6 or 7 songs about 2 months ago. What was that, November?
Oh yeah, like mid early, I want to say.
Yeah. So I guess about 2 months ago, and so we still have probably 7 or 8 left to record. Just the drums were done, you know.
Right.
So I've started working on the guitars though already. So.
What about getting them out there to like sending promo copies to labels and that? Have you tried pushing it onto for a label yet, or are you happy just putting it out yourselves?
We've had a couple. I've had a couple offers after Burning Nation came out, so probably in like 2018, 2017, 2018. I had a couple of labels reach out to me. And, you know, for one, they were both overseas, so we wouldn't be able to tour for them over there. So it would have just been kind of a, you know, thing where they get a percentage of our sales and they push us a little bit over there in Europe. But it just, neither of them seemed like, they weren't going to really cost us anything, but I was afraid of, you know, if it was a 2-year contract or something and something else came along, we wouldn't be able to jump on a big opportunity. So it did. Again, it was one of those things where I weighed the pros and cons, and it just didn't feel like they offered us enough to make it worth it, you know. So there've been some offers. I have never really went after bigger labels like Unique Leader or Sumerian or you know, any whatever, you know, what's the one that Seasons of Mist, you know, those bigger but not really big labels, you know. So it's not Roadrunner, it's not Century Media, but it's
Blast.
or Nuclear Blast or Relapse, but it's pretty big, you know. So
it's what people, if you're in the underground, you would have heard of them. So I would say everyone who's interested, all the band's links are in the blog, all the links to their Bandcamp and Facebook and that. What stuff have you got available? You were talking about merch earlier on. Where's the merch available? On your Bandcamp?
We still have a few hats left. Shirts are limited sizes. I'll have to, if somebody orders one, I'll have to make sure I have the size still. I haven't gone over that. But we got stickers, we got CDs. Burning Nation, we actually have physical CDs. Dark Tales, is just digital for right now. I'm thinking about doing EP 11, so the God Builder EP, and Dark Tales. You know, doing a run of CDs for those. I just haven't gotten around to it yet.
What about vinyl?
No vinyl.
Plans? Or thinking about it?
Huh?
Are you thinking about it? Any plans maybe in the future? Maybe the album next year or later this year?
Yeah. I'm thinking maybe for the album we might do a limited run.
A lot of people are getting back into the vinyl again, aren't they? I've seen a lot of cassettes coming back as well. I can't quite work out why people are digging cassettes again.
It's the little hiss at the beginning. It's the tape hit.
It's the spool roll him out like that, and you have to freaking screw it in with a pencil or whatever. That's the real fun of it, isn't it? Yeah. I've got a question again from my mate Werewolf by Lunchtime. He says, "What band would you have liked to have seen that aren't playing anymore?"
Ooh. You want to go first?
For me, it would probably be. Boy, that's a. Do you want to go first?
I personally, just because I'm wearing their shirt, but Pantera. I mean, to be certain, because I had a very limited window when I was young to see them, and unfortunately, before dying passed, I didn't end up going. So that's one of the ones. But Typo Negative, other big one for me. Like 80s, 90s metal. Beyond that, I don't know. Sabbath quit playing a while ago, didn't they? So
yeah,
I would say another to see them.
Yeah. For me, the first one that popped into my head that, as far as bands I've never seen, is Slayer. I never got to see Slayer, and now Jeff Hanneman. I would have wanted to see him with Jeff Hanneman, obviously, but but I mean, I'm sure there's a ton of other ones that I'm not thinking of, but Darkane. I don't even know if they're still together or if they're ever going to tour again, but they're one of my favorite bands, and you don't hear anything about them. They're sorely underrated.
Darkane, are they Swedish?
Yeah.
Is it a melodic death metal, are they? Or
yep.
I can't think I've heard the name. Yeah. Similar question, slightly.
I always call Lamb of God poor man's Darkane.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. All right. So, if you could do a dream tour next year, say, or later this year, when everything's back to normal again, a dream tour with current bands on the underground or whatever, any bands you want, basically, who would you choose to go? Like, say, 3 bands each. Who would you like to go on tour with? In an ideal world.
For me, it would be Obscura, Beyond Creation, and Fallujah, and us.
I would have to say Gojira, Beyond Creation, and Opeth, personally.
Okay. Yeah. Good. Maybe you could do both, if you're lucky. All right, guys, we're coming up to an hour now. It's been fun chatting with you. You got anything you want to say before I kick you out and get back to playing Fallout?
Just keep wind of us online. Look for us as we continue to release material, and stay heavy.
Yeah. Just help us spread the word, man. We're just a low budget 2-man outfit right now, and we just want to play music for people and create music that people like and can relate to lyrically and sonically. So, any way you can spread our music out, share it, share our links, that kind of stuff is what really helps smaller bands like us, and I think people undervalue what use they can be or how helpful they can be to some of these underground bands. Like, you're the lifeblood of bands like us. If you like our music and you can, we don't even need your money. Just share us, show up to a show, show up to a show online. Show up to, maybe buy a shirt or whatever. But yeah, just share the shit out of stuff. That's the biggest thing for me is when I'm friends with a band, I like to share their stuff and just put their name out there. And it's important, because we don't, you look at, bigger bands like Opeth, and they've got such an empire and huge labels and hundreds of thousands of dollars probably at their disposal, for recording and promotion and blah, 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 touring and stage show and lights and roadies and so and then me and him, it's just me and him carrying stuff on stage, and a little fog machine, so yeah, just help a brother out.
Yeah, cool, guys. Yeah, great chatting with you. Hopefully I'll probably play you all again on the podcast soon, and obviously when you get the new releases out as well, I'll just hit me up and I'll play them as well. Did you guys do me an intro yet for my podcast? I can't remember if I've got you as an intro. Did you remember?
No, I didn't do one, but send me an email. I'll send it.
Yeah, just need you. Yeah, just saying hi. This is so and so from Requiem for a Dream. Requiem for a Dream. Then Requiem for Oblivion. That's a film, isn't it? Requiem for a Dream. Anyway, cheers, guys, and thanks for watching, everybody. Spread the word. Go and like all the band's links in the blog post, which is down below in the description. Cheers.
Thank